All right, Dan, just for editing, first question is the easiest question. Can you just say and spell your first and last name so we get it right?
Yep, Dan Black, DanBlack.
And then, Dan, what's your title?
I am a regional partner at Stoll Crake PLLC. I run our Ogden office.
And how long have you been, how long have you been doing that? How long have you been involved with, immigration issues and being an attorney for that?
I've been at Stoll Crake since I graduated law school from the U of U in 2014. And so it's been 11 years, and I have been running our Ogden office for the last 4 years as a managing partner up there.
And what have you seen kind of in that, now you've been in it about a decade. What have you seen kind of transition over time from when you started to now? What does it look like?
It changes with administration to administration, right? And so under Obama, they had specific priorities, right, about who the government is going to expend resources to try and deport from the United States. And there were more deportations under Obama than any other president. And their focus during his administration was people who had prior deportations and specific criminal history, DUIs, multiple thefts, domestic violence, any felonies, right? And so the focus was on them, but there was a significant investment in the immigration courts so that they could become efficient and effective and work how Congress, wants the courts to work under the law. And so that was how I started in immigration law, was under Obama. But then, with Trump, the first administration of Trump, right? Um, their priority, which is the same this time around, is anybody, everybody that is in the United States without documentation is a priority. But the problem with that is that the government still only has a finite amount of resources, right? They can only hire so many Border Patrol agents or ICE agents that can pass background checks and drug tests to be able to work for the federal government. And so when everyone's a priority, you fall back on, well, what do we have the capacity to do? And they've always had the capacity to arrest and detain a certain amount of people and process them through the immigration courts. The immigration courts, or EOIR, the Executive Office of Immigration Review, has always been a bottleneck for immigration enforcement, right? And there's always been long backlogs because you only have so many immigration judges and they can only hear so many trials in a day, right? To adjudicate these cases according to the law. And all the immigration judge's job is just to follow the law. Well, uh, when you put more people into that system, all it does is create a larger backlog if you don't address the bottlenecks. And under the first Trump administration, I think there were attempts to address the bottlenecks, but it's a big undertaking, and they really did not do anything effective as far as addressing the bottlenecks. Right? They tried, but then you have the Biden administration comes in, and their priorities were people who have prior deportations, people who came in the United States after the 2020 election, and people who have significant criminal convictions, right? Aggravated felonies. And so that diminished greatly the focus of who was going to be put into deportation proceedings. And they were also trying to address the backlogs, but a great number of cases that had been started under the first Trump administration were closed under the Biden administration because they simply weren't priority, right? These are people who have been here for a long time, have little to no criminal history, right? And so it was starting to get back to focusing on efficiency. Well, now that we're in Trump 2.0, again, the priorities are anyone who is in the United States without documentation, regardless of the criminal history or the amount of time that they've been here or what they're doing in the community, just every single person. And so we are once again creating a giant backlog in the immigration courts. But this time is different because it seems that the focus is not on trying to get as many people through the immigration court system, but it is to find ways to circumvent the immigration court system and find other ways to more quickly deport people so that they can claim that they are achieving mass deportations. But in doing so, they are denying due process, basically, for many people. Now, they're doing what they can within and questionably without outside of the law. And judges whose job is to follow the law are many times standing in their way because the judges are trying to follow the law. Well, you can see in the latest budget that got passed in Congress by Republicans that their focus is not on trying to make a more robust immigration court system so that people can have their cases adjudicated with due process. They only allocated $3.3 billion for immigration courts, and that's a portion of that for hiring judges. But they also put a cap on the amount of immigration judges that can be hired. And then they have put a significant investment into ICE, into detention centers, and into the border. And so, to the tunes of billions and billions of dollars, 65 billion for the border, 30 over 30 billion or close to 30 billion for ICE. And so you can see what their priorities are. Their priorities are not to make the immigration courts more efficient, but to try and find ways to get people out as soon as possible, regardless of whether or not they have a valid claim to be in the United States or not.
So, you're talking about that bottleneck. So when it goes from six judges here at the immigration court in the Salt Lake Valley to four, does that create even more of a bottleneck then and just add on, or what are the effects of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the judges who have left or have been fired, their caseload has to be transferred to the remaining judges in the Salt Lake Immigration Court. And so they already have an enormous backlog, thousands of cases on their dockets. And now that will be, they will have to take on all these additional cases because there are fewer judges, and that will create a greater backlog. Right now, in the state of Utah, the immigration judges are scheduling hearings for, trials. They're called individual hearings for 2029, right? And so now with the additional cases that are going to be transferred to them, who knows? That could be to 2030, 2031, and the backlog is not going to be reduced quickly anytime soon. And so it does the opposite of what the administration is supposedly trying to do of um, generating more deportations. It's slowing down the system and making it so that there are fewer deportations, at least from immigration judges.
Does that trickle down to other things as well? I mean, like obviously it affects the immigration courts, but also does it pull more resources from other places as well, or does it just kind of create just this giant backlog? What happens in that case, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, it creates a giant backlog, but then the the issue that we're seeing now is that with ICE ramping up their number of arrests that they're doing and detaining people, you're going to have a huge, I mean, we're seeing a huge influx of detained cases. And so what happens is immigration judges have to give attention first and foremost to those who are in detention so that those cases get adjudicated quicker than people who are out of custody. And so more attention is going to be taken away from their regular calendar of non-detained people who are in removal proceedings and focused on those who are in detention. And as that number grows, they will continue to have to push out the rest of the cases. And so it's making a greater backlog than they already have even now. And it will continue to grow, which you can see that's why Congress has apportioned so much money to building more detention centers because they want to detain more people. They want to um, uh, have people go in front of immigration judges, if they will at all, who are detained, because then there's the additional pressure of, well, they want to get out of custody. Many of them don't have any criminal history. Many of them have never been behind bars before, and this is their first time in this situation, and they will do whatever they can to get out of custody as soon as possible, which may mean that they agree to forego their due process rights and just take a deportation order and the soonest plane back to whatever country our government wants to send them to.
I mean, this basic question, but what are a lot of the cases that your clients are bringing in front of this court? Is it, a path to citizenship? What are they looking for when they're going in front of these judges?
The majority of them are asylum cases, right? So these are people who are fleeing violence and awful situations in their countries, and they're fleeing because they 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 feel like they have no safe place in their country where they can remain, and they cannot rely on their own government to protect them. So the vast majority of them are asylum cases, but we are seeing a lot more cases of people who have been in the United States for many years being picked up, detained, and put into removal proceedings. And for them, uh, some of them can try to apply for asylum, but many of them are applying for what's called 42B cancellation of removal or 42A cancellation of removal. Some of them may qualify for um, adjustment of status to get a green card, right? And so if you are able to win a case in immigration court, it leads to a green card or lawful permanent resident status, and then years later you can apply for citizenship. But the vast majority of them are just trying to get protection from being sent back to a country where they will be in danger.
And so as soon as they get you as an attorney to the end of their case, how many years, how long are we talking for that whole entire process if they make it all the way through?
I'd say here in Utah, it's an average of 3 years to get to the day where they will have their case actually adjudicated. But then they can appeal that, which may add 2, 3, 4 years onto that number of time that they have here while they're waiting for a final decision on their case. And so I think, you know, average across the country, it takes about 7 years for someone to have a final order of removal if they're going to appeal. But we are one of the quicker courts in the United States. I mean, there are courts in California, New York, Texas, where the average is 10 years and so or longer. And so and now that we have gone, I mean, at the beginning of this year, well, we had six and now we're down to four. But really, one of those judges that we have of the four that are currently listed for the Salt Lake Immigration Court, I have never seen her handle an immigration court case in the Salt Lake Immigration Court. I think she's more of a chief judge supervisor role. So we have three judges in the Salt Lake Immigration Court who are really actually handling full calendars of cases, is my understanding. And so for them to be able to get through the thousands and thousands of cases that are on their dockets, it's going to take years and years, and that number is only growing.
What is a solution to this backlog or, some of these getting these cases through?
Well, I mean, it is more judges, right? It's more immigration judges. It's making sure that the immigration judges are able to um, efficiently handle cases, right? I mean, our immigration system is broken. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anybody will argue with you about that. Okay. There are ways to make it more efficient, more effective, and for everybody, right? For people, for immigrants, for people who are in favor of mass deportations, for people who are not in favor of mass deportations. We need comprehensive immigration reform, but that requires Congress to do their job. And that, I mean, there has not been comprehensive immigration reform of our immigration code really since 1996. And so, there have been little pieces here and there, but the whole thing needs to be looked at again and reformed, so that we can have a system that actually works for what our American values are, what we want as a country, and so because Congress has refused to act for so long, it's up to each executive branch when they come into office to do what they can, right? Based on their own priorities. And so that's why we have such a pendulum swing between administration and administration, that people think that the laws are changing, but it's really just different ways of interpreting and enforcing the laws. And unfortunately, the judges that are just trying to interpret and follow the law, um, are depending on who's in the White House, either doing a really good job or doing a really terrible job, right? There have been over 100 judges that have left or been fired from immigration courts across the country since Trump took office, right? And so that does not solve the problem. That makes the problem worse, right? And so, there are ways, more immigration judges, more staff, right? There's been a lot of clerks and assistants in these immigration courts that have left or been fired and quit, and so the immigration courts are struggling, is from what I can tell, and they need support. But it seems that this administration is not looking to support them; they're looking to find ways around them.
And as an immigration attorney, how many clients are you juggling at once, and what are they doing while they're waiting? What kind of conditions are they in, or what can they do while they wait years for possibly seeing a judge?
Yes, I mean, we're one of the largest immigration law firms in the state of Utah. We have, uh, I would say, a few thousand cases that are open. Um, that's before the immigration courts, but also USCIS and, other types of cases. But our cases that are in front of the immigration courts, the folks who are out of custody are working. They are driving our economy. They are the hardest workers. They are doing everything they can to contribute to our society. They're paying taxes. They are doing jobs that Americans won't or don't want to do. They are, running whole industries. They're creating jobs, and they're becoming integral parts of their communities, while they are waiting for a final decision on their case, right? Under the Biden administration, most everyone in removal proceedings was able to get a work permit and a valid Social Security card so that they could contribute legally, and not have to kind of hide in the shadows. Well, this administration, under the first Trump administration and currently, is trying to undermine that and drive them into the shadows, or just uh, take them out completely by arresting them and detaining them, which is going to have severe effects on our economy, and on our society. But in the meantime, they're just doing their best. The reason that they came here is because they want a better life. They want a safe place to live where their lives are not in danger. And so they can have that here, but they are all living in fear now that they will lose that as well and have to go back to a country where their lives are in jeopardy.
And anything else you'd like to add or didn't ask? I know there could be a lot more questions, but just with time limited here.
No, I mean that's it. I think that uh, you know there's there is something, it seems like there's something new every day, and so it's exhausting to be an immigration attorney at this time because the changes are happening so fast and they're so drastic, where uh, we are struggling to have time to even comprehend the changes that are being announced or proposed, and so we can't hardly prepare for what's to come, or what the effect is on our clients on a daily basis. And I think that that is part of their strategy, right? This administration wants to uh, make quick changes, wants to make them as widespread and devastating as possible, so that it takes it takes people off guard, and it will be difficult for those changes to be challenged or stopped by courts and judges. And I think that that's part of their strategy because so far they've been able to get away with a lot.